Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Den. I'm Daniel, and in today's topic, I'm talking about why Colin Kaepernick's movement still matters after the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Earlier this week, George Floyd, an African-American man, was killed by a Minneapolis police officer. Floyd was stopped and handcuffed, and while he was on the ground in the street, a Minneapolis police officer had his knee on his neck for 8 minutes as Floyd was on the ground handcuffed, imploring police officers that he could not breathe, and Floyd ultimately died as a result of this police officer's knee on his neck. Floyd's death has set off protests nationwide from Minneapolis and beyond, people outraged at what happened to Floyd. In March, Breonna Taylor, an EMT on the front lines of the pandemic, was killed after police knocked down the door to her home and shot her 8 times on suspicion of drugs, a drug suspect being at her home. Breonna Taylor was in her home, shot 8 times on a no-knock warrant that was signed by a judge for police to come into her home, but it turns out that the drug suspect that police were looking for had already been arrested earlier that day, and police were at the wrong home. How does it tie into Colin Kaepernick's movement? Because Colin Kaepernick, almost 4 years ago, started taking a knee for victims like Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. Colin Kaepernick started this movement by taking a stand to protest racial injustice and police brutality. And here we are in 2020, and we've had 2 African Americans killed at the hands of police officers. And the sad reality and commentary on the situation is that Floyd and Taylor are now added to a list of other African Americans who have died at the hands of police. Sandra Bland, Philando Castile, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Alton Sterling, and Eric Garner, to name a few. Colin Kaepernick kneeled to take a stand against the injustices and the atrocities committed by police officers towards African Americans and people of color. Colin Kaepernick started this movement for a reason, to bring attention and to heighten people's awareness about what's happening to African Americans and people of color in this country at the hands of police. And here we are having this discussion yet again because 2 more African Americans lost their lives at the hands of unconscionable violence at the hands of police. And as an African American, it saddens me, it makes me angry, but at the same time I realize that it's only a matter of time before something like this happens again. And we are having the same discussion later. Colin Kaepernick got whiteballed from the NFL for taking this stance because he knew that this issue would not get any traction, any attention whatsoever had he not taken a stand to kneel. It cost Colin Kaepernick his career, and one NFL official this week even admitted what a lot of us already knew, that by Colin Kaepernick kneeling, NFL owners did not want to employ him because the owners felt like it was bad for business. They didn't want the negative attention. But Colin Kaepernick obviously should be employed, and his stance, his movement still resonates to this day given what has happened to Floyd and Taylor. Colin Kaepernick was also in the news this week because he set up a legal defense fund to have legal representation for protesters in Minneapolis who had participated in riots to express their anger about the killing of Floyd. Colin Kaepernick, even having his career unfairly taken away from him for kneeling and taking stances against police brutality against African Americans, is still continuing the good fight with his movement through his actions. The fact that Colin Kaepernick is setting up this legal defense fund to help protesters who essentially are exercising their First Amendment right to voice their anger about what happened to George Floyd, to voice their anger about what happened to Breonna Taylor, cannot be ignored, and it should be applauded. Colin Kaepernick made the ultimate sacrifice for his career to give a voice to the voiceless and to bring attention to the unjust atrocities that have been committed against African Americans at the hands of police, not just recently, but for years prior. But my question is, will other athletes continue to take action? Will they take the baton and move on, continue Colin Kaepernick's legacy and crusade? We've already seen multiple athletes from the NFL speak out against this, both black and white players speak out against George Floyd's killing. We've also seen other athletes in other sports speak out about it. But will they take action? Will they use their platform to continue the fight, the crusade that Colin Kaepernick started almost 4 years ago when he took a knee? I want to hear from you guys out there what you feel about this. Will Colin Kaepernick's movement be continued by professional athletes? Will it provoke any change? Or if you feel differently about it, I would like to hear from you. As always, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. We'll do it next time, and I'm out.